This is Mrs. Naslin, and today we'll be talking about Unit 7, Lesson 11, Properties in Algebraic Notation. Our learning targets for today are, I can demonstrate an understanding of properties in algebraic notation, and I can apply an understanding of the order of operations to evaluate expressions and solve equations. Now, those learning targets seem pretty complicated, but once we get in, you'll understand. The vocab we'll be talking about today are simplify, term, and evaluate. So really what our learning targets are aiming for us to understand is that we can look at algebraic equations and we can simplify them down. So if we look here, this is an algebraic equation. We have letters and numbers, and we have seen these before. It's just been a while. We saw them earlier in the year. In the fluency unit, we saw letters and numbers combined. But when you see a number and a letter, you can always see if there's not a letter or a number in front of a letter, just think of it as 1. So really what this is saying is 1n plus 5n. And when you see that, you can just solve it with the numbers and add the n. So I think, okay, 1 plus 5 is 6, but I have those n's, so it's 1 plus 5 equals 6n. Okay, now when we see them right next to each other like that, it actually means multiply. So if I knew what n was, I could actually multiply those, but I don't. So I'm just simplifying it down, and if I would figure out what n is, I could actually multiply that number. For example, if I found out n equals 2, I would say 6 times 2 equals 12. But we don't know what n is, so all they're asking us to do is to simplify them. So let's go ahead and try a couple of more. This one says 17t plus t. And again, if we don't have a number in front of it, it's just like a 1. So it's saying 17t plus 1t. So I just add 17 plus 1, which gives me 18. And then I can just go ahead and add on the t. So 17t plus 1t is 18t. So we simplified the expression. All right, I want you to go ahead and try this one on your own. Go ahead and pause the video and try it. All right, let's see how you did. We have 9e minus e, or 1e. So 9e minus 1e, 9 minus 1 is 8. And then I go ahead and make sure I add that e on. And then I've simplified the equation. All right, now how about this one? It has 3 of them in there. Can we still do it? Yeah, again, pretend that these are all 1s right in front of these. So it's saying 8c plus 1c plus 1c. So I say 8 plus 1 is 9, plus 1 more is 10, so it's 10c. Great job. So that's how we can simplify equations. Now, we're also going to review, because these will help us in a few minutes, review our order of operations that we learned about. Remember our please excuse my dear Aunt Sally? The idea that we do these things in this order. We always do parentheses first, exponents, which we really won't see in 4th grade. My dear, which is multiplication and or division, next. And then Aunt Sally, addition and or subtraction. So that just means we have to do these in this order. If our equation has parentheses in it, it has to go first. Then we would do any multiplication or division in our equation, and then lastly, addition or subtraction. You can't do addition first or subtraction first, or it wouldn't end up working. Okay, you have to do what's in the parentheses first. So let's go ahead and try solving a couple of these using that order of operations. So I look here, and I have to think to myself, okay, it says 30 divided by, and then parentheses, 35 divided by 7, end of parentheses. So again, using my order of operations, P, please, I'm going to do my parentheses first. So 35 divided by 7 is 5. And then I have to think to myself, what is 30 divided by 5? And the answer is, it's 6. All right, so next, let's look at this one. Again, I want to look at my order of operations. I don't want to do 13 minus 9 yet because I have parentheses that I have to solve first. So I think to myself, 9 minus 1 is 8. And then I do my 13 minus 8, which is 5. All right, now it's your turn. Go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to work through number 11, which is parentheses 600 minus 400, end of parentheses, minus 10. So again, use our order of operations and go ahead and solve number 11. All right, so 600 minus 400. I think of my 6 minus 4 is 2, so I have 200. And then I have to subtract 10 more. So 200 minus 10 is 190. You got 190? Great work. All right, so next, we'll try to solve these. It says use the properties to find the value of the box or the A. Now, we have to remember the different properties of multiplication that we discussed again earlier in the year. So we're going to do a quick review. Remember the commutative property. It says you can multiply the factors in any order and the product will be the same. So I can say 5 times 4 equals 20 or 4 times 5 equals 20. My order of which I multiply does not matter. I get the same answer. We call that the commutative property. The associative property says you can group the factors in different ways and the product will be the same. So when we're multiplying, it doesn't matter if I do the parentheses 3 times 4 first and then times it by 2, or if I do 3 times and then I do 4 times 2. I will get the same answer. They associate. I think of like friends. It doesn't matter how they hang out, you're going to get the same answer when you're talking multiplication. Now, the distributive property is the idea that a multiplication fact can be broken into the sum of 2 other multiplication facts. So basically, the idea is if we have 7 times 4, if I do 5 times 4 plus 2 times 4, look at if I add 5 plus 2, I get 7, is the same as 7 times 4. I can distribute those numbers in and I will get the same answer. And then the last two, the identity property, is the product of any number and 1 is that number. So if I do 8 times 1, I get 8. If I do 2,000 times 1, I get 2,000. I always think of identity and 1. I and 1 look very similar. And the zero property is that the product of any number and 0 is always 0. 6 times 0 is 0. 4 million times 0 is 0. So that's a really quick review of our properties. And you don't have to have them memorized, but they will help you solve the next couple of problems or some that you'll encounter on your homework this afternoon. So let's look here. So use the properties to solve. So if I have 49 plus 17, I look at this and this reminds me of the commutative property, meaning it doesn't matter the order. If I have a 49 here, and first I want to point out they equal each other. So this side of the equation is equal to this side of the equation. I have a 49 here, and I have a 49 here, and I have a 17 here, which tells me that the only answer that this could be is 17. Okay, because that's the associative property. The order in which you add or multiply doesn't matter. You get the same answer. All right, now this one is the associative property. This one is the associative property. I can tell because if I look, I've got A times 2 times 3 equals 4 times 2 times 3. And I have the parentheses. They've changed where they're at. And I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to figure out which ones are already listed. So I've got a 3 here and a 3 here. I have a 2 here and a 2 here. I have a 4 here. And I don't know what this is, but they equal each other. So if I have all those the same, the only possibility for that A is going to be a 4. All right, why don't you go ahead and try this one. Blank times 6 is equal to 6 times 8. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out what that box would equal. If you said 8, right on. Okay, this is the commutative property again, right? 6 times 8 is going to be the same. I'm going to cross this 6 out and this 6 out. In order to get these to equal, it has to be an 8. All right. Now, in these ones, we're going to just continue to practice. It's kind of more of a mixed practice. So let's do a couple here. Oh, it's not a mixed practice. These ones, we have to try to solve for the actual n this time. All right, so I created some workspace for us, but we have the equation 9 times n equals 144. Now, I always tell kids, and we did this at the beginning of the year too, but it's been a long time. I always tell kids that when I see this, first off, that little dot means times. Okay, remind yourself that that little dot means times. And I want to get n all by itself so I can figure out what it is. And in order to do that, I have to get rid of this 9. And the only way to do that is to do the opposite of what this operation is. So if I have times 9, the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both of these by 9. So I'm going to do divided by 9, and that's another way of writing divided. Think of our fractions, and divided by 9. And when I do this, I will get rid of these, or the 9 divided by 9, and I'll be able to solve for n. So really I have to figure out what 144 divided by 9 is. So we get to do our long division, and I'm going to draw my division here, and I'm going to think, okay, 9 goes into 14 one time. 9 times 1 is 9. Go ahead and subtract. 14 minus 9 equals 5. Then I'm going to bring this on down. So I get 54. So now I get to divide again. Daddy, 9 goes into 54 6 times. And I just double check. 6 times 9 is 54. And I subtract it and I get no remainder. So I found out that n, in this case, equals 144. All right. Let's go ahead and try one more. All right, now in this case, I'm solving for the box, and I don't have to solve all the way. I'm just trying to figure out what that box is. So I look at this and I see there's a times 7 here and a times 7 here. The only difference is these parentheses. So let's go ahead and solve that part. 10 minus 4 equals 6. And so now I have 6 times 7 is equal to blank times 7. Well, again, if I have a 7 here and a 7 here, then the only thing that this could be is my 6. All right, let's go on down and try a couple more. It says to evaluate an expression or equation, substitute the value of each letter, then simplify the expression by performing the operation. So these are kind of awesome because they actually tell you what the letter is. So this is saying A equals 4. So all I have to do is, instead of this being A, I'm going to change it to a 4 because it tells me that A equals 4. So now I can go ahead and solve it. I do my parentheses first. Think of our order of operations. 4 plus 6 is 10. And then I can do the rest of it. 19 minus 10 equals 9. All right. How about this one? It says A equals 10. So I find my A, and all I have to do is plug it in. Yay, I like these. These are nice. Plug it in. So I'm going to do my parentheses first. 80 divided by 10 is 8. And then I have to think, okay, what is 8 minus 5, which is 3. All right. Why don't you go ahead and try number 37 on your own. All right, let's see how you did. So we plug in B equals 7, so we're going to put a 7 in here. We're going to say 7 minus 4 equals 3. And then we get to do 21 divided by 3 equals 7. You got 7? Great work. So today we talked about properties and algebraic notation. And we figured out how to simplify equations, and then also reviewed our order of operations and our properties of addition and multiplication. Great work.